Prime Field.
Can you believe this week UConn only played one game and somehow managed to crank up both the hype and the panic at the same time? We got Sarah Strong dominating in Tampa, the bench absolutely cooking, Ice Brady's knee keeping everyone on edge, and, oh yeah, Sue Bird's jersey is going to the rafters. On top of that, Texas is charging hard at number 1. The 2026 recruiting board is heating up, and the national narrative around UConn is starting to shift from can they repeat to who's actually going to stop them. Strap in, Huskies fans. This is your UConn women's basketball rundown for the December 1st through 5th. Let's get into it. Let's start in Tampa because UConn didn't just beat South Florida, they erased them. The Huskies rolled into UF and walked out with an 85-51 demolition job to move to 8-0. Sarah Strong put up the kind of quietly ridiculous stat line that tells you just how good she already is. 14 points, 10 boards, 4 assists in only 25 minutes. Efficient, under control, and totally in command. UConn shot about 51% from the field, turned 20 USF turnovers into 26 points, and basically ended this thing with a 10-0 opening punch. By halftime, it was 48-16, and the second half felt more like a live scrimmage than a road game. And that's the scary part, right? One big quarter from UConn, and all of a sudden it's a laugher. How many teams in the country can flip a game like that on demand? But here's what really matters from that USF win. This wasn't just a stars do star things game. This was a bench statement. 12 Huskies saw the floor, 11 of them scored. Freshman wing Blanca Quinones? She chose this moment to announce herself with 13 points and 3 made threes, giving UConn that true stretch option off the bench. AZ Fudd and Ashlyn Shade chipped in 10 apiece, and Geno Auriemma ran out extended second unit lineups without any real drop-off on either end. That is new, that is different. If you're a UConn fan, you've seen the seasons where the rotation shrinks to 6, maybe 7 players by March. This game felt like Geno saying, nope, not this year, we're building a true 8+ player core. And if that holds, the ceiling gets scary high. Now, while we're on that USF game, let's talk about the streak that just keeps getting more absurd. Business as usual in Tampa meant UConn is now 143-0 all-time against American Athletic Conference opponents and 35-0 specifically against USF. That's not a typo. 143-0. And there was a bit of poetic symmetry here. It was UConn's first game in Tampa since winning the national title there 8 months ago. You come back to the same city, same vibes, and once again it's a coronation-level beatdown. To add some emotion to the night, that there was also a tribute to longtime USF coach Jose Fernandez, now leading the WNBA's Dallas Wings. That moment underscored just how long this UConn-USF relationship has been a storyline in women's hoops. At this point, when it comes to AAC opponents, isn't the real question less will UConn lose, and more, will anyone even keep it close? The dominance didn't just live on the box score. The Big East itself decided to put a spotlight on it. In the conference's WBB minute, UConn's USF beatdown was the headliner. It wasn't framed as a random non-conference blowout. It was framed as another data point that UConn is still the standard, still the flagship, still the measuring stick for everyone else. The message from the league is pretty clear. If you're talking Big East women's basketball, everything runs through stores. And when selection committees start having those who's the one seed on this line's home conversations in March, those kinds of narrative matters. All right, we've talked scoreboards. Let's zoom out and talk rankings narratives and that big glowing no one next to UConn. On December 1st, the new AP Top 25 dropped, and UConn held firm at number 1 at 7-0, picking up 22 of 32 first-place votes. But here's where it gets interesting. Texas is now sitting at number 2, and the Longhorns grabbed the other 10 first-place votes after huge wins over South Carolina and UCLA. So yes, UConn is still on top, but the margin isn't massive. It's razor-thin. ESPN's breakdown highlighted a ridiculous stat to know. UConn hit a season-high 18 threes in that November 30th blowout of Xavier, and AZ Fudd is shooting an absurd 55.1% from deep to start the year. 27 made threes on 49 attempts. That's video game stuff. The takeaway: Texas has absolutely made its statement. But right now, voters still see UConn's body of work and offensive firepower as the gold standard heading into the December. And it's not just the AP poll. The narrative around the country has settled into something very specific. UConn is the team to beat, but barely. CBS Sports, Yahoo, her hoop stats. They're all essentially saying the same thing. The double-digit wins over Michigan, Utah, Xavier, and now USF, combined with Fudd's elite shooting, have answered the can they repeat without Paige Becker's recurrent question earlier than expected. But at the same time, Texas is right there. LSU's offense is still a problem for everybody. South Carolina and UCLA, even with recent losses, are lurking. So every time UConn steps on the floor now, it's not just about winning. It's about answering this question. Are they still clearly number 1, or are they about to get dragged into a season-long fight for that top spot? Alright, let's pivot from the national picture back to Storrs, because off the court, this was a huge week too. We have to start here because this is program history level stuff. On December 1st, UConn announced that Sue Bird's number 10 will be retired before Sunday's home game against DePaul. She becomes just the third woman in program history to have her number retired, joining Rebecca Lobo and Swin Cash. That's the inner circle of UConn legends. The announcement basically read like a Hall of Fame resume. 2 national titles, 3 Nancy Lieberman Awards, National Player of the Year honors, and school records in three-point and free throw percentage. Then you tack on the 20-year WNBA career, 4 WNBA titles, 5 Olympic gold medals. It's insane. Doing this during an otherwise routine Big East game instantly turns that DePaul matchup into a mini Final Four atmosphere at Gamble. If you're a UConn fan, how early are you getting in your seat for that pregame ceremony? Now from an emotional high to a very real concern, the Ice Brady situation. Late last week, Geno Auriemma ruled her out of both the November 30th game against Xavier and the Deck. 2 trip to USF due to knee inflammation. He basically said the staff is still trying to figure out the next step, which is not exactly the reassuring update that fans were hoping for. Add in that Morgan Shelley is also out with lingering ankle issues, and all of a sudden what looked like a deep, versatile rotation has a few red flags. Given that Brady has already been through major knee surgery back in 2022-23, the staff is clearly being extra cautious. But in the meantime, that means more weight on Sarah Williams, Sarah Strong, and Jana Alalfi to carry the front court load. So here's the question. Can UConn keep dominating the glass and the paint while they slow play Brady's return? Or does this become the storyline we're still talking about in February? Let's go back to one of the brightest developments of the week, the international freshman finally starting to pop. Earlier in November, Geno confirmed that Blanca Quinones and Gandhi Malou-Mamel had both missed early games, Quinones with a shoulder issue, and that Shelley and Brady were still in various stages of rehab. Fast forward to this USAF game, and Quinones drops 13 points off the bench with 3 triples. That's not just back on the floor, that's impact player. Malou-Mamel hasn't had her breakout night yet, but the staff's tone has shifted from day to day to talking about her as a more regular practice presence. That's usually the bridge right before someone carves out real minutes. If both of those players become reliable bench options by conference play, that completely changes what UConn can do defensively and on the boards, especially if Brady's timeline stays murky. Zooming out from just the freshmen, there was also a big feature this week on Geno's growing trust in his bench. And that might be the sneaky most important story of the month. Kellis Big Fish Fisher, Kaylee Heckel, Ali Zebel, and Blanca Quinones were all singled out as players who are consistently first off the bench in blowout wins over Xavier, Utah, and USF. Fisher's energy and defense have made her a fan favorite. Heckel and Quinones bring scoring punch and spacing. Zebel, now healthier and more confident than last season, looks more like the version of people expected. Coming out of high school, Geno's stated goal, have 7 to 8 players he fully trusts by March. And if you look at the minutes distribution over the last couple of weeks, you can see that plan taking shape in a real time. For a program that's been burned by injuries in recent years, isn't that depth arguably as important as having a superstar? Let's talk about the future, because UConn's backcourt pipeline just got a fascinating new name. On December 5th, a full profile dropped on 2026 commit Jovana Popovic, the first Serbian Husky in program history. She's 17, putting up mid-20s and scoring for ZKK Art Basket, rebounding at a high level, racking up assists, and already has MVP and best shooter honors in the Serbian First League. Geno praised her toughness, her playmaking, and her ability to score at all 3 levels. And maybe the most UConn line of all, she's been the kind of player who always wanted to come to the States and play at UConn. The piece also highlighted her Nike Hoop Summit experience and her close relationship with fellow 2026 signee Olivia Vukosa. For fans, this is the first real deep dive into a player who could be the next big international playmaker in Storrs. Speaking of 2026, let's lay out where that class stands right now. 2 huge pieces are already locked in. 6'4" center Olivia Vukosa, a top 3 national recruit who committed in October, and Popovic, the high-usage Serbian guard who joined during the November signing period. That's your future inside-out duo right there. But UConn's not done. Reports say the staff still has at least 1 scholarship to play with and remains heavily involved with elite prospects Jersey Robinson and Spanish-Nigerian Big Sarah Okiki. They did miss out on top 10 forward Addison Bjorn, who chose Texas. And yes, that adds a little extra spice to that Texas-UConn rivalry conversation. The narrative this week is clear. Even with 2 cornerstone commits already in the boat, the 2026 class is very much to be continued. If UConn closes that class with one more elite name, say a Jersey Robinson type, where would you rank that group nationally? So, to recap, UConn rolls into Tampa and turns USF into a statement win. The bench mob is officially real, and the streak against AAC opponents remains cartoonish. Nationally, the Huskies stay at number 1, but Texas, LSU, South Carolina, and UCLA are all right there in the rearview mirror. Off the court, Sue Bird's jersey retirement is about to turn a regular DePaul game into a historic night at Gamble. Ice Brady's knee keeps the front court questions alive, and the 2026 recruiting board is shaping up to be a fascinating blend of size, skill, and international flair, with Vukosa and Popovic leading the way. Now it's your turn. Is UConn truly the clear number 1 right now, or has Texas done enough that you'd actually flip those two in your own rankings? And how worried are you, on a scale from a 1 to 10, about Ice Brady's knee and the front court depth? Drop your takes in the comments, Huskies fans. We'll be watching, we'll be replying, and we'll be back with more UConn coverage all season long.
Prime Field.